The Indian Parliament can't say by a resolution that we are the Constituent Assembly. As a matter of law, they can't say it. They can't suspend, except in emergencies where external aggression, the fundamental rights of people. That also is limited under provisions of the Constitution. The executive can't do things which are contrary to the law, and the judiciary then declares the law. But no parliament can convert itself into a constituent assembly. And if you accept that proposition of law, it has enormous consequences for the future of my country. On 26th of October 1947, the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir made an offer of accession to India, asking for help from the Indian Dominion to meet a grave emergency caused by mass infiltration of tribesmen drawn from distant area of northwest frontier, coming regularly in motor trucks, Manshera-Muzaffarabad road, and fully armed with up-to-date weapons, which cannot possibly be done without the knowing of the provincial government of the Northwest Frontier Province and the government of Pakistan. In the instrument of accession signed by him on the same date, he declared his accession to India subject to the terms of such instrument. Under Section 3 of the instrument, the Dominion Legislature had authority to make laws for the state of Jammu and Kashmir on the subjects of defense, external affairs, and communication. Article 7 provided that the instrument of accession did not commit the ruler to the acceptance of any future constitution of India, while Section 8 vested sovereignty over subjects not acceded to India in the ruler. But there's just two issues I want to flag here. Your Lordships, in the course of this hearing, will have to determine what does a constituent assembly stand for. A constituent assembly stands for enacting a constitution for the future of the territories with respect to which the constitution is to apply. It's essentially a political exercise. It's not a legal exercise. It's a political exercise to take into account the aspirations of people, what kind of state the people want, and in the context of that, draft a constitution. Right? The constitution itself is a political document, but it takes into account the aspirations of several segments of society living within a united territory, takes into account their separate aspirations, and in the context of that, drafts a constitution to meet the aspirations in future years for decades to come. So the exercise of a constituent assembly is a political exercise. The drafting of the constitution, which is a political document, is a political exercise. But once the constitution is drafted, once it is come into place, then all institutions under the constitution are governed by the constitution. And those institutions are limited in the exercise of their powers, because they have to exercise their powers consistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Parliament cannot convert itself into a constituent assembly. That's done. Today, the Indian Parliament can't say by a resolution that we are the Constituent Assembly. As a matter of law, they can't say it, because they are now cabined, cribbed, and confined by the provisions of the Constitution. They can't pass a law which is outside the list. They can pass a law under 254. If the state passes a law, it's repugnant. They must adhere to the basic features of the Constitution. They can't suspend, except in emergencies where external aggression, the fundamental rights of people. That also is limited under provisions of the Constitution. The executive can't do things which are contrary to the law, and the judiciary then declares the law. But no parliament can convert itself into a constituent assembly. And if you accept that proposition of law, it has enormous consequences for the future of my country. And that is one of the most salient and, according to me, the core issues to be decided in this case. Because Parliament said that we declare the legislature of the state of Jammu and Kashmir as the Constituent Assembly. Where does Parliament get that power? How does Parliament get that power? Under which provision of law? Not under 356. The core of the issue that your lordships will have to decide. May I now, Malas, with your lordship's permission, read the instrument of accession? Because what happened on the 26th of October, actually, Malas, the invasion, so to say, was started on the 20th of October. And Malas, within 6 days, these decisions were taken. Because the invaders came, they were armed, they had guns, they would have run over the state. The ruler realized that he cannot secure the security of his own people. He had entered into a standstill agreement with Pakistan. India refused to enter into a standstill agreement with him. And then, Malas, thereafter what happened? One second. Thereafter what happened was that he said, look, I need help. And he told Mountbatten, I cannot possibly secure my people. So thereafter, Malas, the proceedings started. He sought, and he said, look, if you help me, I will unconditionally access to India subject to my own conditions, which is separate, Malas, from the instruments of accession of the other states. And India accepted it. And that's how India secured the peace and was able to, Malas. And of course, the precursor to that is the Ratcliffe Award, in terms of which, Malas, the part of Gurdaspur would connected Jammu and Kashmir, Malas, to India, was ceded to India under the Ratcliffe Award, which allowed for that contiguity, which was the basic principle on the basis of which the partition was to take place. So that's how all this happened.